Happy Sunday morning or afternoon or evening or wherever you are. It's about 12:30 here in central Texas, central southern Texas, depends on who you ask, what their affiliations are as to whether we're central or southern Texas. It's nice just to see all your faces. So if you don't know me, I'm Jesse Cardin, and I'm filling in for John Tarrant today, who is away at retreat in Bolinas. Lucky guy, the wind and the waves and the leaning trees and delicious food, all sorts of things. But we have the fortune of being here together. So that's something, I suppose. It's a nice consolation prize. It's not Bolinas, I know, but it'll have to do. So I wanted to sort of get into my initial thought for what to do today was, oh my God, what am I going to do? That was my initial thought. And then my second thought was, I've been encountering a lot of confusion lately in my life, or at least the confusion has become more tangible and acute. It's just become like harder to ignore, which is part of the path. You'll notice, right? It's part of the meditation path, that those things that I'd somehow managed to just sort of sweep under the rug or skirt around or slide my way through, suddenly like clouds become solid kind of thing. At some point, solid things become clouds too. So it kind of goes back and forth. But I thought, oh, confusion is interesting. And then I suppose for me, I thought, well, the opposite of confusion is clarity. And you could say, well, it's like, if you've ever seen one of those emotion wheels, it's like, well, there's like 500 emotions on there. So who knows exactly what the opposite anger is? Is it joy? Is it relaxation? Is it whatever, I thought, yeah, confusion and clarity, those are two things I know something about, at least particularly the confusion part. And I thought, well, and that's a really fundamental human experience. Maybe it's a fundamental just living experience. If you've got a mind, you're going to experience confusion at some point or another. It doesn't seem to be avoidable. This is what I've learned. No matter how much you meditate, no matter how good of a person you are, no matter how many great advisors you have, and all the plans in the world won't save you from confusion. And this koan popped up. I didn't really want to use this koan because it's become such a cliche. And what's kind of funny is there's a koan about this koan where somebody asks him about the cliche of this koan. But so Zhao said, he's actually quoting an older teacher. He says, the greatest way is not difficult if you just don't pick and choose. It's a great bumper sticker. As soon as I speak, you'll think, that's picking and choosing. Or, well, that's clear, but I don't identify with clarity. I don't identify with clarity, or I don't abide in clarity, or I don't dwell in clarity. Actually, David Weinstein sent me this great, he broke down the Japanese characters for it, and it comes down to, this person doesn't exist in clarity. It's kind of interesting. Can you live this way? Can you live this way, not identifying with clarity? So of course, there's some troublesome student in the audience who says, well, if you don't identify with clarity, what do you live by? How do you move in the world? How do you make decisions? How do you sort the good from the bad? How do you, all those things? And Jauja just says, again, I don't know. I'll tell you again, I don't identify with clarity. Well, if you don't know, why do you say that you don't identify with clarity? So you tell, like, this is. And Jojo just says, well, when you ask the question, you already have it. Make your bow and step back. So he's like, I've had enough of this person. Go ahead and sit down. Isn't that great? But I don't, and that's really the line that stuck me, that hadn't really ever bitten me quite like this before, but I don't identify with clarity, or I don't abide in clarity. I don't dwell in clarity. Well, that's something I can relate to. I certainly don't feel like I abide in clarity, or I have maybe a timeshare in clarity, and I get to like hang out there a couple hours a week or a couple hours a month or something, but I certainly don't own property there. And I don't think that's like being clear isn't a requirement of the project that we're doing here, right? Actually, it's in a way it's irrelevant to the project, regardless of how much our minds seek clarity about whatever it is. What are all the things you can be clear about? I can be clear about my thoughts. I can sort them out and get them lined up, and I can be clear with myself that they are thoughts. I can be clear about my emotions. I can get those sorted out and separated and lined up, and I can get the logic of them all figured out. I can be clear about objects, that this is a coffee cup and this is a mouse, and I can know the differences and the similarities. I can be clear about whatever, my relationships with other people. But that doesn't save me in the end. I think that's the thing that I keep coming back to. And that's a good thing, actually, because just to live in clarity ends up being kind of a small thing. There's not a lot of light that gets in, I think, if you only live in clarity. So that's pretty good to start, I think. Let's sit for a little bit.